Hello everyone, welcome to my new channel, Poya Dev. We're doing a code review. This is going to be a new series I'm starting, so there's going to be some instructional stuff, as you can already see on my page, as well as some new code reviews. If you would like to submit some code for me to review, simply email me at tim@poyadev.com. You'll see it here on the screen. Oops. That'll get the code to me, and then I can go through and review it, and I'll make a YouTube video out of it. This project specifically, the one we're doing today, is going to be a two-part project because there's a front end and a back end. And so for this video, we're going to work on reviewing the front end. That means the design aspects, the UI UX. We're going to review the code itself, look at how CSS or the CSS is written. We're going to figure out like how responsive the code is, all that sort of stuff. So this project specifically, hopefully it doesn't get me banned, but it is a YouTube downloader website that is actually currently live at youtubedownloader.io. Now, first thing I'd like to mention is the typical YouTube downloader looks similar to, I mean, this is actually one of them. They're all very like classic. You know, you've got your Times New Roman or your sans font. You've got very plain like 2000s-ish, early 2000s-ish website looking, and you know they work all right, but a lot of them have crazy ads too. So on this one, I've been told we'll be getting ads eventually, but they'll be a little more not so in your face, I guess. So let's just see how this works. I already have a link. It's a Mr. Beast Monopoly video. Okay, so the enter button doesn't work, so I have to actually click the download button. So that's first tip would be to add the ability to just hit enter when you enter the URL. But besides that, we'll go ahead and click the button. Okay, server is working. Not exactly sure what's. Okay, so it pulled up a thumbnail, that's cool. So I can make sure I'm downloading the right video. It's got the title, that's nice. This drop down's kind of, you know, the pop-up I actually don't mind, but I think that's a built-in like web interface. The look of it, it's very classic looking. Again, not ideal for UI UX. This button's kind of neat. Should have the pointer mouse instead of the cursor. The cursor should be the pointer instead of the default. So right now it's on default. It should be a pointer, which is your little hand. Let's see if this one, yeah, see that right there. That's the cursor that it should have when you hover over this button. Now also, I've noticed that there's no other text on this whole page. So, I mean, we can fill the sides with ads if we wanted to. I'd recommend for SEO adding some content down below and maybe some more info. But it's kind of nice. I prefer clean and simple, and this is pretty clean and simple. So, okay, we got three options. We've got 144p and 9 megabytes, 360p, 77 megabytes, and 720. So we'll go ahead and do the biggest one. I'll click the button. Okay, so it's loading. And we'll look at exactly how all this works here in just a second. But for now, I want to see how, kind of performance-wise what it's doing. And it is still loading. So while that's loading, let's take a look at the network requests. Actually, it's not going to load because, oh, okay, so it's checking the status of something. Let's take a look. So download youtube.io, status, response is nothing. So we're sending in, looks like the, video ID, and then the I tag. Oh, that video is done. So we get the URL and response, which is some DigitalOcean space. And it looks like it's now downloading the video. So it took a while for, I'm assuming the server is downloading the video and then setting the URL for that download to the front end, in which the user can then download that video to their space. Because you can't really do a direct download from YouTube. And so, okay, it's not doing too bad. Alright, this is going to be like half the video right here, just watching it download. Okay, and there it is, and we have this new video. And there it is. And the audio is working. It's not playing through my speakers, so you're not able to hear it. It's playing through some headphones that I have plugged in, but it is working, and that's pretty neat. So let's take a look at the code on the for the front end. Kind of behind the scenes, I've already got it pulled up in Atom. I use Atom as a text editor. I enjoy Atom a lot. Unfortunately, they're discontinuing it, which I was when I found out. It was a pretty big bummer. I personally like the simplicity of I'm a simple person. I want to just sit down, write the code that I want to write, and not be bombarded by 13,000 plugins telling me what I should be writing. Like let me just write my stuff. I know what I'm doing. Leave me alone. So for that reason, I like Atom. It's very simple. There's still some text prediction stuff a little bit, but it's not like in your way kind of thing. So let's go ahead and I already know that this is a React.js front end, and so I want to go into the source folder and look at the organization to start with. So we have all the default, when you create a React app, from all of these files are kind of default. Sample fetch, okay, that's just additional code, so that can be removed. So that's just an extra file that needs to get dumped, it looks like. Setup tests, okay, there's no testing happening. There's a logo in there. I don't know if that's the active logo or not. Let's take a look. Index.css. This is all React's default stuff. And then, so there's a test render. App.js. It's importing main from component/main. Okay, and looks like we're starting on AdSense as well. App.css. Let's take a look at this really quick. Okay, there's not a whole lot going on here. Like there's no scrolling. Like this is all the CSS that's in this file. And app logo spin. So this is actually all the default CSS as well. Because when you start a React project, you get this little fancy web page with a little spinny logo in the middle. And I've done enough of them to know that this is the default code for that. So this file can either get dumped or replaced with whatever current CSS is being used. So let's take a look at the asset folder, and it looks like, okay, we just have a spinny GIF. And that's actually, I believe, current. I believe I saw that on the web page. If not, this should go. It's just taking up space, but if it's being used, that's great. And now finally, let's take a look at the components folder. So we have, okay, so we just have a big blob of files. Actually, I'm going to pull it up in Finder so it's a little more easier to see. So let's see, front end. And what's this image folder? Okay, so we got images. Okay, so our backgrounds are right there. These are neat. Let's take a look here. I kind of like these. Nice. Spacey. Space vibe. What's this? That's kind of blah. Yeah, that's decent. I like that. Okay, so just some background images, I guess. This is the one that is currently using. Okay, go back. Source components, because that's where we're at over here. And I'm going to list them off. Okay, so this should be organized in folders. One of my first critiques is to organize this further down. So we have like a D-links list or DL links list. Probably download links list, CSS and JS, drop down CSS and JS, loading GIF.gif, okay. So that should be in the assets folder. In fact, I think that's a duplicate because I think it does exist in the assets folder as well. Yeah. What's the difference? Let's take a look here. Okay, one's big, one's small. So those should just, rename. Let's take a look at this. So first piece of advice is take a look. Usually you can see the image size in here, and I'm not seeing it. But typically you name these by like, if this is 64 pixel thing, you would have like loading _64 or something like that. So people know what, or do 64x64. So people know like which one is which. And again, that should be in the assets folder, not in here. Secondary is, let's take a look. So the main, that's a lot of CSS. Okay, that's decent. Drop down CSS. This is, okay. So one thing I would add is, do a folder for styling, or you can do CSS. So I typically use styling because it can be kind of a compilation of CSS files and other styling files or custom stuff. Or you can just name it as CSS is where all your CSS files go. We're going to do that. So we're going to move all of these into there. Now this is going to break the app. That's okay. We're not going to run it. This is just so you can see. And then I typically do another folder for, so we have like some pieces here, and then probably a main page. I don't know what test is yet. We'll look into that. So we're going to set like pages. So like main.js, if we open it up, it's going to be, oh, there's a lot of functions in there. And this is going to be like the main page. So that I would move into pages. And we'll open up that version. Okay. And then these little pieces, let's open test. What's test? Okay, test is empty. So let's delete test. That's unnecessary. Doesn't need to be in there. Don't keep empty files. And then DL links list. Let's see what this is. Drop down. Okay, so this is a drop down with the server loading. Okay, so this is a little component actually right here. So when you click the download button, it's that component right there. So this is kind of your downloader component, I guess. And then let's see what the drop down. The drop down is probably, yeah, just straight up a drop down. So I would throw these into like, what do I normally call it? It's right on the tip of my tongue. I mean, obviously components, but there's another, golly, I can't remember the name of it, but there's another folder name I usually use to store like objects. So you have like a drop down, like that's a little tiny component. So we even name this as components, or we're gonna even name it as an atom. We'll name it atom. So that goes down there. Now this DL links list handles a whole lot of stuff. I mean, it handles the download. It's got the progress bar, the server loading, and none of that's imported. It's all like inside of here. So like here's server loading right here, the progress bar. So a lot of this should be broken up into smaller pieces, like having, let's see, so you have use effect, that's a function, a second use effect, that's a function, so that's two functions, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 functions in this file. 2 of those are really components, not functions. This is a component, so this is a dropdown. Okay, so this is probably the dropdown they're actually using. This other dropdown might be one that they were working on, or I'm not really sure. So DL links list should be broken up a little bit more. For certain functions, like one of these is like a downloader. Okay, so check if download URL is in cache and same to download. So like a lot of these can get put into a secondary file, like a helper or a utils file, a utility file, where you import the functions like cache download. Like a lot of these you can import and use instead of like taking up a whole file, because this kind of gets a little bit messy. I'm being a little over picky here, that's okay. So we have a lot of unused code here. I would say delete that if you don't need it. Same thing. This is, okay, so this is the original test data before, probably until they linked it to the back end. So that can get probably deleted, or if it's accurate, I guess you could keep it. But so let's see, DL links list. I would split that up and have like a new folder with functions. And then inside of here have a utils, which is utilities, but shorter. So utils.js file with a lot of those functions that you import. And then I would put the server loading progress bar. I would just make this a component like, so I do, either another components folder, so like just random components, or you could put it in the atom folder, little atom pieces. For now, it's empty. I'm going to move to trash. Okay. Now, with all that in mind, let's go through the code itself and just see kind of how things are happening, how things are running, see if we can spot any inefficiencies. We already spotted 2 use effects in the same file, so we'll take here in a second, we'll take a look at that. But we're going to start from the ground up. We're going to start with the main file. So let's go to app.js. Okay. So just a default, again, React by default has, uses this, or he just kind of kept the default and then imported his page. Now, one thing to note here is typically I use the app.js file as my like router initiation file. So I'll have like all the initiation code for React router, and then in my components folder, I'll have a router folder or a navigation. So either router or navigation. And actually, let's just keep that. Let's go to navigation. And then within the navigation folder, there's a JavaScript file that has all of the imported pages and then the routing for those pages. So on the main app.js, you have kind of your initialization, and then you import the router file, and then under navigations, you would have a router.js file with the rest of the page routings. Now, if this were a really big website with a lot of routes and stuff, then in the navigation folder, there would be multiple routes. So your home page would have routes. Your, say you have user profiles, that would have its own routing file. Any admin section that would have its own, so you'd break it out even more. This is a pretty simple website, but even going from like here to the home page, there's no way to get back to that main page. Like there's no way unless you refresh it. So having this go to a secondary URL as it's downloading would be kind of nice. It's not necessary, but to allow us for scalability, it'd be good to just have that implemented and ready to go. So that's the first critique there, is just adding some routing in here with some navigation. Now, let's take a look at this main file, components and main. That's this file right here. So we have some state variables. We're importing main.css. We're importing the spinner GIF from assets. Okay, so we're not even using the one that's just kind of floating around in the middle of nowhere. DL links list. Okay, importing that. Use effect, use state, use context. Okay. So we have a state variable for vid options, state variable for vid URL. Results visible, error text, input query is mounted, is showing the results. Okay. So use effect, set timeout is mounted. So in like I believe that's like 1 millisecond, because I think set timeout is in milliseconds. So like 1 second should be like that. Might be wrong on that. Let's take a quick look. JavaScript set timeout. Yeah, because that'd be 5 seconds right there. Okay, so there's a set timeout for 1 millisecond, and then it sets is mounted as true. Let's take a look and see what is mounted does. Oh, it literally does nothing. So, I mean, that can go, I'm assuming. I don't know why that's in there. Like, why do we have a use effect with is mounted, like setting a variable that does absolutely nothing? Okay. So that's unfortunate. Just taxing the site for no reason. Again, such a small thing, but it's, clean up your code, right? Let's see, use effect. So this is second use effect. Typically, you want to only have one use effect in the file. Like, it gets really complex if you have multiple, and it's just it tremendously terrorizes your website speed. Okay, so use effect if vid URL does not equal null, then we're going to get the vid options. Interesting. So does that mean If I change this, it's loading. Let's take a look. Inspect network. No. Okay, so if it does not equal null, then we're going to get options. What does get options do? I'm assuming get options. Oh, wait a second. Okay, yeah. It's not a variable. So it's a function. If URL does not equal null, it's going to make a call. So this is probably fine, but it's kind of seems unnecessary to have this in a use effect. I think what he might have been trying to do is when a user is in here and changes the URL, as they're changing it, it'll send the request out to the backend, so it's immediate and doesn't require the button. And if that's the case, you'd want to get rid of that. Because this will allow it to run once, and that's pretty much it if I recall correctly. It's been a while since I've spent the messed with the details for use effect, but we'll move on from that. Again, we have a commented out code. Are we using it or not? Obviously, we're not right now, so can we get rid of it? If we can, let's clean it up, right? Got some good comments. I prefer comments to be above or below, not on the side, but I mean, some of this is okay, I guess. See, like this just kind of is a weird. So I would prefer to like move this to above the function, so I know, hey, this function is doing this. It's just gonna makes it a little more readable. URL equals URL to parse. So URL equals URL to parse. Shorthand URL to parse. Not sure what that means. Why not just set that to URL and get rid of that? Works just the same. So again, extra code, not necessary. Okay, console.log validating. Now, let's see if this is still, oops, I just totally bumped my camera. I hope that is still where it needs to be. My bad, my leg's kicking it. Let's take a look and see if these console.log statements are still in the production version on the website. So we're gonna go over here and go to console, and it is. Look at all those logs, okay. So one tip is when you launch to production, get rid of all your console.logs, clean it out. If you use TypeScript, it'll actually almost make you remove your console.logs unless you change some configs with it, which is good because, like, you know, you don't want a bunch of random debugging happening in your production. Man, I'm just bumping into everything. You don't want a bunch of debugging lines happening in your production code for users to potentially see. Okay, if URL does not equal defined or URL does not equal blank, okay. So this could actually just be if URL. Doing this is, you know, just absolutely unnecessary, and it's totally fine. A lot of beginners don't realize that you can just shorthand that to if URL, and this is if URL does not equal undefined or URL does not equal blank string. This should actually be an and, because what you want is you want to be sure that it's not going to be empty. If we put or, the URL could be like undefined but not, or let's see, it could be undefined but not that, and it'll still pass because it'll be a true. So this needs to be a and again, get rid of this code. So if URL and URL does not equal an empty string, that's totally okay. You would also do like URL.length is greater than 0 or something like that, but I don't mind this. And then, okay, regular expressions. So we're going to verify that the YouTube is a YouTube link. Okay. It can be a youtube.com/watch ?v, or it can be a youtube.be URL, because YouTube has multiple URL options. So that's good, and it can have a www or not. That's okay. All right. So the URL is going to match that as long as it matches. If match and match.length equals 11. So I'm assuming this is verifying It's going to pull the video ID out. I'm just going to verify that it's 11 characters. Now, this one I'm not sure about because I don't know if YouTube has standardized their ID lengths or if over time they will grow. So that's something to keep an eye on is hard coding it like that. May become an issue. Now, if you know there's a minimum and a maximum length, it'd be better to like is greater than 10 and is less than 15. If you know 100% sure they're all 11 characters and that's it, and that's, fine. Just be aware if they change it, be on top of that, or your whole website basically breaks right there. Okay, so again, this is just validating the YouTube link. Link is valid. Okay, that doesn't need to be in production, so you can get rid of that now. And return true. Else. Okay, so this should actually be on the same line. JavaScript prefers it to kind of be on the same line. In fact, I think it may not work properly if it's not. Might be wrong on that. It might work like that, but it's better to see it like that. So there's some critique there. Console.log, again, another console statement. Let's get rid of that. Do anything for not being valid. We're going to set the error text. Please enter a valid YouTube URL. Okay, so it's not valid. Tell the user it's not valid. And I believe this error text will come down here. Error text view. Let's search for that. Okay, it's just going to return a little div line right there. Not bad. I mean, it takes just as much code to do that as it would to just put this in there, but then you're taking up an extra function. Not the end of the world. Maybe eventually if they wanted to add some styling, maybe it was just for future growth, and that's okay. So going back up to our validation, we're just going to kind of start scrolling through this a little quicker. Okay. Get vid ID. So where's this being used at? Okay, so this is a function that's not being used at all. You can see my search, it's not getting used anywhere, and I kind of already had a feeling of that because of the fact that right here we're pulling the video ID. So if this is unused code and not needed, let's delete that. Let's clean it up a bit. Not a big deal. Get thumbnail URL. Okay, so we're using this third-party tool, adding the ID to get the max resolution image. One thing with using third-party tools is they're not always 100% reliable. So I prefer, if possible, to use my set up my own methods. Like for this, it's just grabbing a thumbnail image. Like, is there any way we can do that separately using not this random third-party? In fact, let's just take a look at this website. Let's see what this website is. I'm quite curious. Oh, cannot be reached. Let's add an I dot. Okay, that's the blank YouTube image. Interesting. So it's just a site, I guess, to get the YouTube. I actually wonder if YouTube, if that's YouTube's thumbnail grabber. So let's go to the network. Let's refresh this page because all these are thumbnails. So there's a thumbnail. Okay. Oh, it is. So that's actually the that's YouTube's thumbnail grabber. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Good job on that. That's good. Okay. And if it's unfound, we're gonna go to img/unloaded. So, because main was in here, so img would be back here, but there's no img. There's assets, and there's nothing in there. Even in components, there's nothing in here. So I don't think this is a real image. So this could be an issue because if the thumbnail is not found, well, now you broke your page because there's not a valid image. Okay. If results visible is true and vid options is not equal to null. Again, this can be simply and vid options. Is vid options something or not? Okay. We're going to return another little piece of HTML. For the title. Okay, so we're going to grab the title, throw it in there. Not terrible. This could also be a one-liner in the HTML. So instead of doing this, we could do like And this might be why there's so many functions, is if he didn't know this. So where's that title view? Right here. We can do this right here. So we're going to do a curly bracket, do another one down here. We're going to add a question mark here. Delete the is not null because we don't care. We just want it to be something. And then we're going to come back up here. Title view, we're going to grab this and add it there. And then as semicolon and then null. And that right there is our if else statement. So this can get a little messy with a bunch of these, and so having it in a function isn't terrible, but one-liners like this is totally a thing. You can even do this in the function up above, if I recall correctly. So results is true, then we're going to add that if not. And then, if you really wanted to, you could add some comments in there. We're going to undo that, though. We're going to put it back the way it was. Just a little thing there. There's a lot of if-then statements happening. Or if else. So let's see. Video thumbnail. Same thing. If results are true and vid options not equal null, get rid of that part. Return the thumbnail. Okay, source is video is the URL. Okay. Download link list. If results visible equals true and vid options again is not null, get rid of that. Got a drop down there. Now, let's see which drop down that is. Okay, so that's a delinks drop down. Okay. So that's the object that kind of handles everything else, I believe. Okay, there it is. Otherwise, we're going to return servers working, spinner, bounce. Okay. So once it's downloaded, basically it appears. I believe what's happening is if there's video options and results visible is true. Okay, so there are results to list. We're going to include the dropdown. Else, we're going to show that the server is working and doing something. Okay. Let's see where this gets used. Okay, so it's just a little section down here next to the thumbnail. I don't have too much to say about that. It's not, the code's decent. Button is pressed, server is working. Cool. Handle input changed, string set input query. Let's see where that's getting used. Right there. So I'm guessing the reason why they did it this way is probably to eventually add like error handling. Paste YouTube link here on change. Because otherwise you could just do set input query here, right? So my guess is they have it set up in a function because either they're going to or they did have some sort of qualifying code here before setting the variable. That's my guess. I don't know. A handle button clicked if it's showing results as false and video options is null. So if the button's clicked, nothing's been done yet. We're going to validate the YouTube URL. We're going to set the video URL. We're going to set the results visible as true. Set error text as null or blank, basically. And we're going to get options. Okay, so it's going to ping the server for the video options. And if it comes back false, please enter valid URL now. Validate YouTube URL, I believe, already does that. Yeah. So there's already an issue. Now, some of these, let's see. Yeah. So it's kind of redundant a little bit and could be more specific. For instance, like, yeah, if validate equals true. Otherwise, set error text. There's a better way to do this. Is this returning true or return false? So just return false, get rid of that. It's either true or false. It's either valid or not. And then down here, when you're doing that, then if it's true, then do your stuff. If not, then set your error text. Because otherwise you're setting it twice, you're wasting resources. It's just not necessary. Oops. Error text view, we already went over that. Super basic. Get options if URL is not null. Again, if URL. If it exists, it exists, okay? Let body equal JSON.stringify URL equals URL, okay. Got a fetch call here, we're awaiting it. Now, sometimes it's not necessary to have an await. Sometimes it's better to just let it do something and then move on. Await basically means it's not going to continue in the code at all until after that fetch call goes through. So is that necessary here? Probably not, because I don't think there's any code that's waiting on this fetch call. I think it can happen asynchronously. So that's one tip there. So make the call, then response, return. Okay, so this is just messy. Look at this. Okay. So this should be, what the heck is happening? Yeah, this should be like that or something along those lines. Because then you've got the clear order. It's fetching, gets a response, it's going to return the JSON, and here you can add if response.ok, then return. Else, throw a new error or something like that, right? Do something about the error. Okay, so that's that. Then data. So now we get the data, which is going to be our response.json. Set the video options. Again, a bunch of console statements. Those can go away. Set is showing results true. Okay, so we set the video options. So this is okay. Getting options. So this is getting like the file sizes, the download options, like the resolutions, that sort of thing. Then show the results. Set the video URL as null. Not sure why that's necessary, but that's okay. Return data. Catch error. So if there's an error, it doesn't tell the user, it just logs it in the console. So this should be, we already have the error text, so this should be like a set error text issue getting video options. Please try again. Or something along those lines, something simple, just to let the user know, hey, we're not actually working in the background, we failed, try again maybe. Right, so, okay. And then we have all this extra code. Again, get rid of it. This is broken because of my change here, but that's okay. I'm not running this code, so I'm gonna leave it. All right, so now we're getting to the HTML section of this. There's a lot going on here. So we've got our main component is mounted. Yes, if not hidden. This, will end up getting replaced if you switch to pages. You have a page for your main. You have a page for your download page with the options and stuff. So then we have a wrapper below that. Okay, results visible or minimized. So this is just calling different class names for CSS. That's totally fine. I don't mind doing stuff like that. You've got a header happening here. That's good. It's good for SEO. Error text view. We already know about that. So we have another container here. This is going to be okay, so this is the input at the top of the page. So this is going to be like this section here. Okay. You got the button. It's a little SVG button. That's totally fine. There's a lot happening here for this SVG icon. Oh my gosh. Okay. This should just be an SVG file for that icon. Great source for that is Flat Icons. They have a ton of amazing icons that you're allowed to use. See, just grab one of these, get an SVG, PNG, whatever, and import it instead of having straight up SVG code within your code. Like this is it drawing that icon right there. Like that's so unnecessary. Not terrible, just unnecessary. Okay. And we close that off, that's fine. And we got our video options here, download link. And, okay, so there is a footer, board dev, and I do have a little hand in this. I'm working on a lot of the back end stuff, which you'll see the code review for in the next video, and I'll explain a lot of what's happening there. There's a lot to be wished for in the back end code, so check it out. Back end is Django and Python, so some good stuff there. And then Clutch Kyle is doing the front end. I told him I wouldn't mention his name, but here it is. He's actually my brother, and he does a pretty good job of coding. He did it years ago and kind of got out for some time, and decided to get back into it. So this is kind of his first project, just kind of jumping right in, both feet in. And honestly, he's doing pretty dang well for just jumping right in. Never used React before, so he's figuring that out. So not terrible by any means at all. The D-links list, we're not going to go through this a whole lot because I think most of my feedback is going to be the same. A lot of console statements. Again, this use effect is probably only going to run once. Again, a second use effect that's unnecessary and unneeded, not even being used other than to log something, right? Handle button clicked, lots of console statements, get rid of those, add comments if you need to, add conditionals for HD quality. Okay, so this video doesn't currently have HD quality videos. It will soon, and there will be a rewards ad that you have to watch through as it's downloading the HD quality video. Now, the HD videos will end up taking a lot of time anyways to download and for the server to process and stuff, and so the rewards ad is just a small way to make money while the server is working. You know, if you don't like them, get an ad blocker. Let's see, get download. So we've got some JSON stuff here, another fetch call. Again, a really messy fetch call again. Let's clean that up. Let's organize it from start to finish. There's a catch on, see, there's multiple catches. It doesn't need to be set that way. So, you know, clean that up. But, you know, I already covered that in the other one, so I'm not going to hammer on that too hard. Okay, there's a lot happening here, a lot of testing that's been happening here. So just, you know, a good cleanup could be used. Again, fetch call, fix that. I'm not going to think too much about it. Ping status, set timeout. So every 3 seconds, it's going to look for the URL from the server. If it doesn't exist, it's going to wait another 3 seconds, ask the server, is that video ready or not? Once it's ready, it's going to come to download file. It's going to download that file. Okay, lots of unused code. Let's clear that out. Drop down. Okay, so here's a drop down component. If option is not equal to null, again, we don't need that. If user selection is null, so in this case, you can do if not user selection. It's just simpler, easier, less code. Okay. Say user selection. Okay. Do a select HTML object. Yeah, that's all fine. We're mapping the options. Okay. Progress bar. Progress bar actually seems to work pretty well, so that's decent. And the fact that you have a progress bar, that's quality. That's good. Server loading is a server loading. It's just going to show that the server's loading. Okay, so not too much here. Again, just a lot of functions, a lot of download stuff. Like all these fetch calls can be added to a utils or a like a JavaScript file for functions and fetch calls and stuff. So, you know, just some organization stuff, efficiency. You know, cleaning, just general cleanup would help a lot in this. Other than that, let me know what you guys think. If you guys have any more tips for this user. And again, if you want your code to be reviewed, ship it to me. I only touch JavaScript and Python though, so just be aware. Node.js is fine, Angular is fine, mobile apps are fine. Send me your code, and I'll review it on YouTube. And catch part 2. Part 2 is going to be our backend review.